Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm picking a car up from the auction, and as everybody knows, there's always an issue with trailers. Trailers are built super cheap, paid a pretty decent price for this trailer for what it is, but the wiring on trailers is always horrendous. So last time I towed my friend's Pathfinder from the auction, something happened. I think the plug fell out or somebody broke it. It was really a weird situation. So I put a new plug on it, and since then I haven't driven my truck. Well, I've driven my truck, but I haven't pulled the trailer with my truck. So I hooked the trailer up last night so it charges the brake controller, get in it this morning, and the brakes are locked up. So the issue I'm having, I looked around the trailer, looked at the wiring. It looks like what's happening is the trailer brake wiring over here actually broke and it's grounding out, which is locking the trailer brakes up and just holding them in place whenever it's plugged in the truck. So at first I thought it was an issue with the wiring, went back through my plug wiring, everything is good to go there, but we're gonna have to address the situation with the trailer brakes. So I have trailer brakes on the way back and the way there. So let's get to work on that, and I'll show you really quick what's going on. As you can see, the wire, it was just butt connected. It broke over time, just the vibration. That's the issue with trailer wiring. A lot of it is just butt connected, and you can see that it isn't very, look at that. It isn't ran very well. So I'm gonna reconnect everything so everything is good to go, and then just kind of go from there. I'm guessing this is for this side, and this is for, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. Why is there two wires going to one thing? I'm guessing maybe this is what's going on. Maybe this was connected to that. The red was connected to that to go to that. That makes sense. One's ground, one's power, and we'll just connect these and have trailer brakes again and have everything working. I also have an issue with one of my running lights over there, so I'll address that. And maybe I will go over all this wiring and kind of secure it and make sure that I'm not going to have future issues like this. Maybe just go through it and redo it one day. But today I just want to go pick that car up. So I'm going to re-butt connect this, re-butt connect that, and we should be good to go. I think everything should be good to go. It has a ground going to it. This was an accessory ground, but it looks like they just like solder it to this little lug. I don't know. That's how the one up there looks. It just looks really, really sketchy. And what happens is the wiring just goes through the axle over to the other side. So what I'm gonna do is test it out. I was able to get the trailer all sorted out. Other than the rear brakes being disconnected, the wires being broken, which I reconnected. The trailer plug, well, the trailer plug wasn't wired incorrectly, sort of. So what happened was they ran the wrong color wires to certain things. So instead of running red to all the 12 volt stuff like it should be ran, they just ran red as the brakes, which makes sense. And then the blue wire goes to nothing. So I don't know, it's just weird. So usually blue's for the brakes, which I just had to trace all the wires back, figure it out. But it is a good thing that I did fix the rear brakes on this side. Well, actually it was the whole rear axle was disconnected. So now I have both brakes on my trailer working, or all four brakes on my trailer working. So now we're finally ready 3 hours after I was gonna leave to go grab that car from the auction. So let's head up to Denver. Hopefully there isn't a bunch of traffic, and hopefully we don't have any issues. We are just getting to the auction. I'm pulling in the parking lot. Inside, got everything ready. They're bringing up the Cherokee. And man, look at this thing right here. It looks like whoever is driving that, the dash is literally at the top of the driver's seat. That's crazy. So here comes the Grand Cherokee. Oh man, she's totaled. Check it out. finished loading the Grand Cherokee, and this thing is, I mean, it would look pretty bad in pictures, but man, it looks bad. But the good thing about it, it has all 4 big brakes on it still. It looks like the transfer case, the tranny, and the diff is fine. All the wheels are there. It looks like maybe 3 of them are still good. And then up here, it looks like the engine should be fine, but this thing was on fire and it actually looks like it melted the oil pan. I actually grabbed a few pieces off of there and it just comes off like a potato chip. So now that this thing is all strapped down, I try to strap it down as good as I could, and I pulled as much of the stuff out of here just so I'm not gonna have a bunch of stuff falling out. It's definitely gonna have a bunch of dust and whatever blow out of it, but I have put the roof down. This roof was actually put back. It looks like they cut this whole thing with the jaws of life. And I mean, it looks like it was pretty destroyed. So I also had the guy with the forks push this rail up because it was leaning pretty far down, and just try to get this as good as I could to transport it just so nothing falls off and we don't have any issues. Before I go, I'm gonna knock all this dirt off so it doesn't fall off and hit somebody's car, because I don't want it to happen to me. So I'm gonna make sure that I try not to mess anybody's stuff up as much as possible. So let's get back on the road. I think I'm gonna go grab some lunch, and yeah, we have a full bed of a bunch of other random parts from it. Man, this thing's destroyed. So just got some lunch, and it's just funny because people do not know what to think when they see the Grand Cherokee on the trailer. It's just so destroyed. And now heading back to Pueblo, and we'll try to get this thing stripped down. Hopefully there's some good parts in it. Grand Cherokee is now back at the junkyard. Have it sitting over on that car for right now. And what I'm gonna do is pretty much just strip it down and see what we can save and salvage out of this car. I mean, I only paid $300 for it, and then after fees and everything, it was like 600 and something. So I have 4 good brakes, so we know there's good brakes. I think the back 2 wheels may be okay. We'll just have to see if they're bent or cracked once I pull a tire off, if they balance out, who knows. The front 2 wheels are pretty much destroyed, but yeah, the car is completely destroyed. But I mean, the engine turns over freely, and it doesn't look like, I don't know, without pulling the engine, it's hard to say, but it doesn't look like the block is cracked. So as long as the block isn't cracked, and I have a good long block, you know, long blocks are worth like $4,000 to $5,000. So I mean, it just depends. The cats are worth 600 bucks. So I mean, we are coming ahead, even though this thing is pretty destroyed. So let's start stripping it and see what we can save off this thing. just finished stripping as much as I possibly could from the Grand Cherokee SRT. And when I say as much as I possibly could, when I went to the auction to pick this thing up, I made sure to grab the wheel that was actually separated from the car and the bumpers. So I really wanted that other caliper as well as the wheel and whatever suspension components were actually attached to it, just to see, you know, I want to be able to know what's on there. I want to be able to decide if it's junk or if it's good and kind of look it over. But I'm really glad that I grabbed the bumpers as well, because they have the little wedge clips that I had a special order for the Hellcat, and they were actually pretty expensive. So I think when I got the ones for the Hellcat, I needed 10 of them, and I spent like $100 on the clips. So now I have a surplus of them, and I actually need them for the charger inside. When I get all the wide body stuff, I'll need those little wedge clips to put the flares on the bumpers on that. So I'm really happy that I got those bumpers, got all the clips. I mean, I stripped as much as I possibly could off this car. And what I'm really excited about is the block. So I stripped this thing 100% down to the bare minimum on it, and it is ready to go to the machine shop. It is very, very burnt. This car rolled over who knows how many times. I mean, it had to have been moving extremely fast because there was dirt stuck in the exhaust. And when I pulled the catalytic converter off, there was rocks all the way up to the catalytic converter, which those rocks would have had to go through the first muffler, then the secondary muffler, and then all the way up to the cats. So that's really, really strong force. And there wasn't just like one or two, there was like probably like 20. It was like completely full. So I'm really glad that this block isn't messed up. I'm gonna have the machine shop check everything over, make sure there isn't any damage, any micro cracking. They'll Magnaflux it and just kind of go from there. One issue the 6.4s and the 6.2s have when they get wrecked or, you know, something happens is the engine brackets actually break off, or they put holes in the blocks. Mine broke off, which is really, really nice, and it didn't put a hole in the block, but this thing really just needs to be cleaned up and just gone through. What I want them to do is hot tank it and just kind of go from there. This car, from looking at how everything's worn, I'm guessing it had under 5,000 miles because everything is super clean, and the wear on the cam, on the crankshaft, on the bearings, etc., on everything that I took apart just looks really, really minimal. So I'm just glad that I got this block, I got this engine, I mean, I got all these parts, but we'll just kind of go through everything that I got and saved off this car. This is the pile of stuff that was bad. One of the piles, I'm actually gonna save the alternator and the AC compressor for cores, just so when I have to get a new AC compressor and alternator, I'll have cores of those, and the cores are like 200 bucks anyway. So going through the block, not sure what I'm gonna do with it, but I want to take it to the machine shop. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I may end up building it for boost, and they have drop-in pistons and rods. So I may order the pistons and rods, order a head gasket, and then just take the pistons, rods, the block to the machine shop. I'm almost sure they'll say that I don't need to order bearings because the bearings look extremely well. They barely look even worn. I mean, you can see the ones on the rods right here. And I mean, those have some grime and stuff from me touching them, but they have extremely no wear. So the pistons, the Teflon on the skirt doesn't have any scuffing or anything like that. I mean, it's just amazing that this thing is just in such good condition. One thing, when I pulled the lifters out, one of them, there's like a little spring retainer, and it actually shot out. And I think it actually was already shot out when I pulled the push rods, but when I pulled the lifter out, everything fell out of it. So I will have to get a new lifter and just kind of go from there. I have one good engine bracket, and you know, the flex plate's good. The exhaust manifolds are good. The heads are good. They have to be cleaned up as well. I'll take those to the machine shop. When I do the block, they'll just hot tank them, make them look 100% brand new. And you know, look at the camshaft. The camshaft's good. Crankshaft's good. All you have to do is hit them with a like a wrench or something. If they ring, they're not cracked. I have both rear axles and I have the rear diff. So this rear diff is actually very, very expensive. So it's a 370 LSD rear diff, and they're like $1,800. So I have the rear diff. I actually have one rear control arm. I have a whole side of rear arms, rear sway bar. These shocks are like $500 with the one with the actuator on it. I have the calipers. Those are pretty expensive. The rotors were pretty much shot. I saved the front rotors, but I'm probably just gonna order some new rotors. I may end up putting those calipers onto the Charger, but I'm not exactly sure. Still have to decide. I also have the tranny. The tranny is good. I need to get a new pan because the pan's right there, it's melted. I need to pull the valve body off of it. So this thing was upside down. It must have been on fire upside down, and then it just melted the oil pan. I think that's what happened, but there's just some, you know, ash and stuff inside here. There's actually nothing inside the pickup. So when I get the new pan, after I pull the valve body, I'll clean everything, clean the outside of the case, and then I'll put the valve body back on the new pan and filter, and it'll be 100% good to go. But yeah, these trannies are pretty expensive as well. There is one little spot on the top of it where it like broke off a bracket, but I don't think that's a big deal. There's not really any issues with that. And it kind of looks like it melted it a little bit right there, but it's all just kind of cosmetic. And I mean, it's going to be usable. I'm going to be able to use the tranny with no issues, and I really don't think I'm going to have a problem with it. The fluid that came out of it smelled brand new. It didn't have any stuff. There was some left, and it was just kind of draining out. The transfer case, actually, I'm going to have to pull this apart. So I pulled it off. Everything looks good. There's no holes or anything in the case. It doesn't look like there's any damage, but the force of the car rolling over however many times it did, I'm guessing they're going over 150 miles an hour when they wrecked it, but it sounds like a ball bearing actually fell out of one of the races, and every time you turn it over, you could hear it rolling around inside the case, and I don't want that to be left in there. So what I'm going to do is pull it apart, figure out which bearing I need to replace, and then put a new bearing in it, put it back together. We'll be 100% good to go. Those transfer cases are actually pretty expensive. Those transfer cases are worth more than the diffs. So then I have the front diff. It's actually a 370 LSD diff as well, which is really nice because, I mean, look at that. An LSD front diff. It has a little nick right here and right here, but it didn't break any of the casing. It just kind of scuffed it when that kind of tweaked. But yeah, these diffs are pretty hard to come by as well. I found one for sale, and it's just goes to show you. I mean, it's really nice to have a bunch of spare parts, especially for what I paid for the car. It was, you know, practically free now. I mean, I have all these free parts. I probably shouldn't have cut the drive shaft. I thought that the drive shaft would have been bent how the car was, but their carrier bearing, it like bent exactly at the carrier bearing. I could have saved the drive shaft, but I saved both pieces. And if I ever need to make a drive shaft, I'll have it. The front drive shaft actually needs to be rebuilt, so I'll probably end up doing that. Send it off, have it rebuilt, and just kind of go from there. It's you can see the grease and it's nice, but it just kind of has this weird slip. Then I didn't show you the brakes, I don't think. The brakes over here, I have all 4 brakes. No damage to them. Well, actually, there's one scuff on the back of the driver's side caliper, and then one of the lines on the rear caliper I have to order. You can see it's bent right there, but that's all that happened. Oh, another thing that I haven't discussed is why this thing wrecked, and there's no pads left on the front calipers. So the rear looks like it has brand new pads, and the front looks like they never replaced them since the car was new. I saved all these additional pieces from the front grille, the front bumper. I found the climate control right there. Those are pretty expensive. Wiring for the parking sensors, etc. Wheel flare, and you know, just trying to save as much as I can, just to recoup whatever money that I can out of it. I also was able to, so what's happening is I'm going to be getting another one of these, but it's a Trackhawk. So I'm going to get a Trackhawk. It should be here sometime soon. I thought it was gonna be here Friday, but the guy didn't pick it up until Friday, so I had to pay like 80 bucks in storage. But I have two good wheels, well, two pretty much good wheels off of this SRT. They're the same wheels, and they just need to be refinished. So I have two on the other one that are good, two on this one, so I have a set of those. Then I'll have 4 bad ones, and I may end up doing something with the bad ones, have the full size, or not the full size spare, but the spare out of it. The tire's pretty cooked. I mean, it cooked the lettering and stuff on it. And you can see the front wheels. Actually, this, I have one good side. The passenger side wheels were all good. And then this is the front driver side wheel. And then this is the front rear wheel, or the rear driver's side wheel, and you can see that they're just mangled. So the front one was super mangled. I mean, I can't believe the caliper survived. You can kind of see a little bit of paint right there, but I mean, all in all, it's just very surprising. The faces are still straight. I need to find out if they're straight or not, because that kind of is going to go with the project that I'm going to do. But I already took the, or my old boss already took the Grand Cherokee off of the car over there, took it all the way down, and put it in the crusher pile. So really all I need to do tomorrow is throw all of this stuff right here. All this is just broken components. I'm gonna save one of these hubs and press out the bearing, or press out the hub, because I need it. And then I'll throw all that stuff in that crusher car, pull these axles, so I have some cores for axles, and then throw all that stuff in the crusher car, as well as this front subframe's bad. I'll throw that in the crusher car, and all that pile of burnt stuff right there. So I'm just extremely happy that I bought this car. Super, super cheap. What I got out of it was well worth what I paid for it. I mean, there's no way that I could ever pay $300 for that diff. I mean, that diff is well worth what I paid, not even including all the engine stuff and all this stuff that I got additional on top of that. So it just goes to show you, people were saying, I wouldn't even buy that if somebody gave it to me for free. I just think those are just such ignorant comments, because there's so many parts on a vehicle, and something like this, that it's an expensive vehicle and extremely expensive, like the Trackhawk that's coming. I mean, there's always something that you can save off of it. Even if the car catches fire, rolls a million times down like a mountain, there's always going to be something good left in it. And it just goes to show you that some people just can't see that. So I'm excited that I got all these parts. We'll do a build on the engine in the future. So I'm going to end the video here. Hopefully you guys like this little episode of buying a car from the auction that looked totally destroyed, and seeing how much I could save off of it and how much money is actually in one of those cars. So if you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.